Well, what I do is I have a security burglar alarm, fire alarm type business, medical alarms. And it just so happened that day that I was installing the security system for Steve Bryant at Bryant's Pharmacy, right next door here. And when I got finished with all of my work, beautiful day, it was 2 years ago, almost to the day. And I went home to ride a horse that I had just bought about a month ago. Now, I'm a big-time horseman. Everybody around the area knows that that's what I do for fun. We do actually have a cattle ranch, and my son and I use horses on the ranch, and we have always competed all of our lives in different competitions. Well, there was going to be a competition that weekend, and I needed to, keep my horse ready. So this was a Wednesday evening, and I went home just to tune him up and be ready for the weekend. I was lunging my horse, and all the other horses were in the barn, and it was a wonderful horse, but I knew something was wrong. I'm a horse trainer, but I immediately thought he just wants to go in the barn with his buddies because I took him out a little early. So I went ahead and got on him, even though I knew things were not just right. And as soon as I got on him, it turned out that what was really wrong was his back was hurting real bad. And of course, there was no way I could have known that. So he didn't have a choice. He can't say, he'd already told me something's wrong, Ron, but I didn't listen. So he had no choice. So he threw me off, but also smashed me into a cattle panel. And that cattle panel hit me right there. So it knocked the breath out of me. I wound up in the sand. And I knew immediately that this was not normal. I've been thrown off horses 100 times. I knew I was in serious trouble. So I said a quick prayer, actually, that I reached around for my cell phone and I could not find it anywhere. But I knew I had it. So I prayed again, and then I felt behind me. And for some reason I couldn't turn over. Later it turned out that my back was broke. But I found my phone in the sand, and I called my son, and he didn't answer. And they live very close by. I called my daughter-in-law, and she didn't answer. Very nervous. I knew I was in trouble. So I called my son again. He still didn't answer. And I called my daughter-in-law again, and thank goodness she answered. And at first she was surprised. She didn't really even know what I was talking about, but I let her know I'm really in trouble. I need help. Within 2 minutes, she was climbing over the corral fence, and my son put one hand on the rails and jumped over, and they ran straight to me. At that point, I knew that the only way I was going to live, because I could feel it. It turned out that my kidney was smashed, my spleen was smashed, my other kidney was damaged, my appendix was damaged, and my colon was almost beyond repair. That was what was going on inside of me. Plus my back was broke. So I said to my son, Jared, the only hope that I have is that you get me to White River Medical Center. That's the only thing that's going to save us. And of course, I was praying. Normally you could call an ambulance, but we're so far away, we didn't know where an ambulance might be. It could have just been right there in town, but we didn't know. But I knew my son would get me here in a hurry. So he did. Then I had the common sense or whatever to say to Jared, go ahead and call the emergency room right now and just tell them what's happening and let them prepare for us. And then I passed out. But he did that. And when he got through to the emergency room right away, they immediately stayed with him. It was a lady, I don't know if she was the admission person or a nurse, I don't know, but she stayed with him for 30 minutes on the phone and told him exactly what to do. They knew everything about it, but by the time we got here, they were at the door waiting. 2 men came out to help. My son helped them, and they carried me in. And when I woke up 4 days later, I was like, wow. And I looked around, and I couldn't fathom where I was. And I said, where am I? And she was so wise. She started to answer it, and she goes, wait, where do you think you are? And I looked around, and I go, I'm in the hospital. Why am I here? And she goes, well, what do you think happened? And then I go, oh my goodness, I had a horse accident. Where's my wife? And they go, right there. And that's how I woke up. They saved my life. But it wasn't over at that point. We were still here for quite some time. And so many doctors, so many nurses, so many technicians, but my wife actually kept a record, a day-to-day record, and we've got all their names and what they did. It's unbelievable, pages of it. But sometimes there would be as many as 6 doctors right outside my door with the door open, consulting with each other about different things that each one would be doing their certain fields. And they got me through it. And it went all the way through the nurses. They started liking me. The techs started liking me. One of the techs would come in every afternoon, and she and I would sing Michael Jackson songs. No kidding. We had a blast. And the physical therapy doctor, she's actually a doctor, where people that normally could not survive, that would never even make it to Little Rock, survive because of what they are doing. And hopefully my story will just help make that better.